Okay, I think I'm rolling. This is a big technical difficulty and complicated audio editing in Post Magnet. But I guess I gotta do what I gotta do. So, um, I'm going to start by just trying to compare the intros. So let me try to do that by exiting back out of here. And then the intro for the original game should play eventually if I don't do anything. Now probably, if I were to guess, there's not going to be any actual audio for it. I'm just going to talk over it, but it's going to play the video. I remember what the original song was. Oh, there is audio, okay. Okay, and then I'm going to go back into the extras again just to make sure it doesn't autoplay, because if you leave the original game on the menu long enough, it'll just play the intro again. I don't recall if the Eternal Edition, and I'll describe what these are in detail later if you don't know. This is supposed to be like a non-spoiler thing, so it's meant to be watched if you never played Never7. Even though I'm probably going to title it in such a way it's going to be intimidating. I think but this is not really a spoiler. I can say this. A little ways in, like a few lines into the game, there's a second intro that plays. I think, if I recall correctly, although I might be wrong because my memory is not perfectly reliable, that the Eternal Edition, which I'll describe later, puts that intro into the menu as opposed to the original PC intro in the menu. If you've never seen the original PC intro before, that's it. It may be less famous than the intro that's slightly later into the game. And there's also a PSP intro that's different if you haven't seen that. Now I'm going to, it disappears when you minimize it. Okay. I'm going to launch the Steam version, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, I'm going to Alt-Tab here to make sure, to OBS, to make sure that it's actually capturing. Okay, good. Let's go back to the game. SDR is not unique to Never7. The English version, by the way. Okay, so let's go back to the original. Actually, I'm just going to overlay it, I think, in OBS. I'm just going to bring the front. If I can figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay. Actually, to make my life easier in post, I'm going to mute the background music. Whoops. This makes everything complicated. Okay, config. Because I'm gonna like mute the background music in post, but I need to. But I'll have to mute less stuff if I turn it off here. Wrong stuff. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how much trouble it's going to get me. That's going to put me through. Okay. Now. Okay. What I'm going to do now, if I can get back to OBS. I have so many things open right now. Crazy multi-let's play. Well, I'll explain some things, and when I'm done explaining some things, then I'll compare the versions. So if you're not familiar with this, you may have heard the news that um, Mages did a re-release of both Never7 and Ever 17, the Xbox remake of Ever 17. Although maybe we shouldn't call it the Xbox remake anymore because it's now come out on more platforms than just the Xbox. We could reserve the term Xbox remake for just the 3D sprites version. Um, on so they made a, I guess it's not really a remake because this is apparent, but for okay, so it's a remaster of both of them. It's a remaster of Never 7 and a remaster of Ever 17 Xbox remake. It's a remaster of the remake. They aren't really remakes in and of themselves. Um, okay. And it was released somewhere around March 6th of this year on these various modern platforms like the Switch, I presume the PS5, and of course, most importantly for me who games almost exclusively, although as demonstrated by my Memories Off videos and some other things here and there, not completely exclusively, on my PC, because that's just so much easier because I record everything I play. So it's way easier to record something if it's on the PC. I don't have to use a capture card, I have multiple things on my desk and so on. So I'm kind of a PC, unless it doesn't ever come out on PC person, right? I have to switch platforms if I want to play something like Detective Chronicles Rain Code, where it only came out on the Switch. Anyway, it also came out on PC via Steam. I have not checked GOG, but I presume it's not on GOG. It's my best guess. If you were curious, you would check. But I assumed it was not on GOG before I started this recording. And then once I started talking, sometimes talking brings things to mind. You go, oh, what if? Now, this re-release of both Never 7 and the Xbox remake of Ever 17 come with commercial translations of the game from Japanese, in which it was originally written, to English and traditional Chinese. I don't think there's any other languages, just English and traditional Chinese, as well as the original Japanese. And as far as I understand, the original Japanese is exactly the same characters as the original script for Never 7. Maybe not the original script. Excluding the original PlayStation script, which omits the most important route in the game because it hadn't been written yet, I presume. It has the original script of Never 7 and the original script of the Xbox remake of Ever 17, which we don't think of as the original script of Ever 17, because there was a prior script. And then there's a commercial English translation and a commercial Chinese translation. Now, the original Never 7 had previously a fan translation to English. And oftentimes when you have a fan translation of a game, and then later on the company who owns the rights to the game pays somebody to make a commercial translation of the game, the fans who are used to the fan translation of the game will say, well, the fan translation was so much better. Mostly because that's the one that they were used to. Although sometimes commercial translations tend to get a bit more... They try to make it like the game would have originally been written in that language. They might do things like replace idioms in the original language with similar idioms in English, for example, as opposed to just word for word translating the idioms. They're a little bit more... Instead of the fan translation, where the fans just expect, hey, this was written in Japanese, and so we're going to kind of expect you to play it with that in mind as you're going through. and they tend to be a little bit more literal and little bit more word for word and less thought for thought. I have played through a little bit so far of the commercial translation of Ever7, and I haven't really gotten to a lot of the idioms yet. They're the Xbox remake of Ever7, so I can't really tell you how literal or paraphrase it is yet. But it's good so far, even though I haven't got to the parts where you would actually use to check if it's good so far. So now I gotta back up and go through all the little details. Well, before I do that, I gotta note something. So I didn't show it when I booted the game right now, but when you boot the game for the first time on Steam, but not subsequent times. That's why I didn't show this time, because this is not my first boot. This is my second boot that I put on recording. You gotta make sure it works first. They ask you to select a language, whether you want Japanese, English, or traditional Chinese, and the menu that you would use to select the language for me was in English. And I'm guessing it did that. I don't know how it did do to give me the menu in English. Maybe it has something to do with my Steam settings. It wouldn't have worked off the non-Unicode language of my computer necessarily, because that's set to Korean at the time. Just now, by happen chance, because I have these plans to finish recording the free time events of Danganronpa Blowback and have not actually done that yet, but my computer is still set to Korean. Anyway, I digress. It gave me the menu in English, and then if you select that language, it doesn't let you reselect on subsequent boots. Also, not sure if in the config, let's go to the game, allows you to change it while you're in the game. Let's go to the next page. It appears like there is no setting for that. Okay. So you cannot change it once you've booted, unless there's probably some config file that you can find in the install directory of the game, which this is the Steam version, is in my Steam library, that you can delete. That deletes everything and resets it to like if you just downloaded. Also, you can delete and re-download it on Steam. So using the Steam, launcher as well. And then I could restore it, but you can't switch the text type midway through. Which is a bit disappointing for someone like me. Like, sometimes I want to go back and see the Japanese text. I haven't started clicking through this game, but in the Ever7 on Steam, it's not dubbed, right? It preserves the original voice acting in Japanese. So, for most of the characters, if you can't see the Japanese, you can hear the Japanese. But that's not every character, because the lines of the character you're playing as are not voice acted. Just the characters you're talking to, as if you, for some reason, can't hear your own voice. So, the protag's lines you can't hear, and the only thing you see is the English text, so you don't really know where it came from. I was going to say that for AI to Somnium Files, that game was unique and it allows you to switch like mid-game. Because this is actually not that uncommon. A lot of games don't let you switch mid-game. But I don't actually remember if it lets you switch the text mid-game. All I remember is, for sure, it allowed you to switch the voice acting mid-game. And it was dubbed, which is irrelevant to this. And that was Spike Chunsoft, and this was released by Mages, and Mages tends to put a little less work into things than Spike Chunsoft does. And anyway. So, okay, now I talked about the languages. So, Ever7, written by a whole team of people, but Kutaro Uchikoshi was the main guy. The first version of it was released in 1999. And it was released on the PlayStation. It was incomplete at the time. The final route that you would play, the golden ending route, was not actually even included in the original PlayStation version. There was a different route, which I don't know why they bothered writing, that was substituted in. And the substituted in PlayStation route, you could actually, you could you can play in the later releases of the game after you've done the true golden ending route. So you can kind of like go back and get it. So later releases had everything. There was also an epilogue, some sort of post-credit scene in the PlayStation, which was not released in later versions of the game, although it was short and really didn't matter. I have actually read that because it was patched into the Eternal Edition, which I still haven't explained what that is yet. And then I didn't realize what I was reading at the time. And it was like, where's the PS epilogue? I can't find it. If you watched my original Let's Play. Anyway, although that was no big loss for getting the actual real golden ending in later releases. And then the releases on the stuff that was actually had that golden ending was, I believe, somewhere around, it was like a year later in 2000 or something like that. And that was released on the PC. And the Sega Dreamcast, I don't know if it was released on the Sega Dreamcast at the same time, a little bit later. And then a few years later, I don't know how many years, like deeper into the 2000s, it was released on the PSP. And the user interface looked a little bit different on the PSP version. And, of course, it was only released in Japanese. There were no translations of it. Now, the fans made a fan translation, which originally worked on the PC release, and eventually they made the same script for the fan translation work for the PSP. And I have this video on my YouTube channel called Summary of the Availability of the Infinity Series, which describes this in more detail. The original PC release for the game works on every version of Windows up to Windows 7. On Windows 10, you can get it to launch sometimes. In fact, I just did today, as you can see. But this actually, what I just brought up on the screen right now, is the original PC version. However, sometimes kind of temperamental, sometimes it doesn't launch, and it's kind of tricky to get the background music to work with it. In fact, you have to pirate the background music. I don't think the CD thing works on Windows 10. It does on Windows 7. So to try to explain this, it comes with the game comes with two discs. One is the game, the other is an audio CD with some extra bits in it for some sort of authentication. And when you play the game on your PC, which runs Windows 7 or earlier, you put in the game disc, you then install the game on your PC. Then you take that out, and then while you're playing the game, you have the audio CD in. And it reads the background music off the audio CD. They do this for two reasons. One is they're trying to prevent piracy by just copying disc images and passing them around, giving you motivation to still buy the game because you would need the physical CD to listen to the background music. And they made it really difficult to patch it so that it would work off files from the CD. Although, of course, as you can imagine, people did patch it to run off OGG files. You have to be pirated OGG files, that is. And also, so that you could put, say, the audio CD in your car, because back in those days, cars still had CD players. I still have a CD player in one of my cars. In fact, I have one of the last, if not the last brand new cars you could have bought with a PC, with a CD player. So you can imagine, you can narrow this down the list of what cars I own. Anyway. So I could theoretically do that, or just like something like your, CD player that just kind of, I I have CD players. I also have like a CD player sitting in my bedroom as well, and it would play the soundtrack of Never 17 off, not Never 17, Never 7 off the CD, kind of like a little bonus functionality. But as you can imagine, it got a bit hard to run on the most current version of Windows, although it still does sometimes. So someone, I should know who they are because they actually commented on one of my YouTube videos, so I should know what their YouTube username is. I don't remember it at the moment actually, but I've actually like interacted with this person. Created a port of Never7 to the Love 2D engine. Now, this of course is a big copyright violation. But they did that, and that was the way, and they put the fan translation into that, exactly the same script as the original fan translation for the PC version, and that was the easiest way to play the game for a long time. Now, as of March 6th of 2025, Mages came out with a remaster of the game, which they released on all kinds of platforms, as I just said, including Steam, and that's what you see right now. I just bought it, and now I'm playing it. So, what I'm going to do, after I'm done rambling here, is compare the text for the first few lines, right up to when the intro plays, because I want to get the intros, of both these, and just kind of compare the translations. I'm not going to make a Let's Play of this entire remaster, because I've already made a Let's Play of the Eternal Edition, in fact. So I'm not going to I'm just going to go through a few lines, compare what they say, and then, yeah, that's about it. If you want to play Never7 nowadays, go ahead and buy this. As far as I understand, it's exactly the same Japanese base text as the original Never7 from, did I say Never 17? This entire video is mainly about Never7. Okay, so if you want to play Never7 in 2025, this Steam version would probably be the way to do it. It's definitely the easiest, although it does cost money. But I don't promote pirating things, so buy the one that costs money, that they put the effort in to actually remaster and release on modern hardware. The Ever 17 is more complicated. Okay, you get more complicated when we get to Ever 17, because it's not the original Ever 17. But for Never 7, here you go. It's the same Japanese base text as the Never 17 from 2000. So it should be extremely similar experience. Just this commercial translation is going to be somewhat different from the old fan translation. So let's go through a few lines of the original. So if you're wondering what this original is, it's actually I actually have the discs. And that's what this is. This is off this install. Now, some of the footage I showed of the original files a long time ago was not actually from the original discs. But this is. So, like the physical round disc. Okay. If I can remember the controls for this is... Well, it's been a long time since I've done this. I'm going to just leave the Steam version in the background. So you're going to see this awkward doubling. I don't care. So let's start at the beginning. Now, I have the background music off because the record label arm of Mages puts copyright claims on the background music for their games. The game arm seems to not care. I asked the game arm if they cared, and they never responded. But they seem to not care, but the music arm does. Now, this font being tall, you know how the letters are really tall and skinny looking here? The font's kind of weird. That's a Windows 10 thing. I'm still on Windows 10. I have not upgraded to a Windows 11. That's a Windows 10 and probably a Windows 11, since Windows 11 compatibility is the same with Windows 10. If you were to play this on Windows 7 or younger, or older, why did I say younger? Windows 7 or older, you would see full width characters. It's just another one of those problems you get with Windows 10 is these narrow characters. I also have this problem if I try to play it using wine as well, get these narrow characters, even if I put wine in Windows 7 mode or older. So the first line in this is why in parentheses. Could those be my words or someone else's? So he's describing a vision he saw. No, right now it's doubtful whether these are even words or not. There's nothing here. No sound, no color, no wind. It feels like I'm swaying around in a cloudy liquid. It's so cold. With every breath I take, my windpipe and lungs let out a dry sound as if they are frozen. Okay. That heavily dangling palm is clutching onto a small fragment of light. Okay, let's see what the commercial translation says for that same stuff. So it looks like they changed the text box style. Now, commenting on Ever 17 again, they did not actually change the graphics for Ever 17 from the Xbox remake of Ever 17. But it looks like for Never7 they have changed the graphics. So now they have this blue text box instead of the rainbow text box. And on the PSP version they had a dark blue text box, but this doesn't really match that either. So it seems like a completely new text box style. Did I say that? So that's different than were those my words, right? Or someone else? No, now I doubt if they're even words. There's nothing here. No sound, no color, no wind. Well, at least that's the same. It feels like I'm wandering aimlessly through some cloudy liquid. It's so cold. With every breath I take, my lungs crackle and freeze up. I see a limp hand grasping a small, glowing object. Okay, let's switch back. Okay. See, it's different. A bell? It's a small sphere. The smooth metal surface shines as it emits a cold light. The bottom has a long, narrow hole carved into it, and a small, dull crimson string is tied to the top. Before long, the bell begins to quietly slip out of the palm. It then slips out and falls. I tearfully cling to her chest as my body, trembling, gradually intensifies. In my arms, I can feel her cold, wet skin. Her thin limbs are stiff. Looking at her ghastly pale, almost transparent cheeks, I feel like she might shatter into 1,000 pieces if I touched her cheek, as if she were a doll made of glass. Okay, let's look at the commercial translation. Is it a bell? So instead of just a bell, it's is it a bell? They decided to stick in those filler words. A small metal sphere emitting a cold light from its smooth, polished surface. Slender holes are carved in the bottom, and there's a faded crimson string tied at the top. Maybe that sounds like better. Those couple lines were like more accurate than the fan translation. Slowly, the bell gently slips out of her hand. Same ding sound, and falls. I cling to her chest, sobbing, trembling violently. Her skin feels damp. Use damp instead of cold. Oh, instead of wet, okay. And cold in my arms. Why don't they use moist? Her thin body is stiff. They don't say limbs, they just said body, okay. Her translucent cheeks seem so delicate, like they would break at the slightest touch. As if she were a fragile glass doll. Okay. She has already stopped moving. She doesn't speak or smile. With her radiance and warmth completely gone, all that's left of her is an empty shell. A completely empty shell. Today is Saturday, April 6th, 2019. I've lost her. Why? Only that hoarse voice fills this empty void. wake up, I kick the covers off the bed with all my strength. Okay, let's go to the commercial translation. That will no longer move, that can no longer speak or laugh. Stripped of her radiance, robbed of her warmth, all that's left is a mere shell. An empty shell. It's Saturday, April 6th. They omitted the 2019. Did they do that in the Japanese also? I lose her. That's bizarre. I know that year is not important for Never7, but they omitted the year? Did they rewrite the whole script to just take the year out of this? Why? Only a heavy, raspy voice lingers in the air. I guess it wouldn't be as futuristic now, because it's 2025, right? You'd have to go back in time instead of forward in time. Back in the when this was released, that was 19 years in the future. Now it's 6 years in the past. I jolt awake, kicking the blankets aside. Okay, let's go back to the original. Wait, did I not switch them? Oh, okay, well, you heard me read it, even if you didn't see it. Well, what I can do here is I can go to the backlog. So there's the backlog. Just to prove that what I read was actually it. Okay. Okay. That was awkward. Okay, let's go back to the original. Whoops. Still half asleep, I blankly stare at the ceiling. The ceiling looks unfamiliar. It's slanted and made up of several polished wooden boards that are stuck together and equally spaced. These boards were probably built with no space between them. The faint scent of the wood lingers in the air. I realize I'm freezing. My body's soaked with sweat all over. I take a deep breath and slowly exhale. The warm scent of wood goes through my nose and fills my head. It takes me 3 more breaths until I reach the point where I can realize where I am. That's right. I'm at the camp. Okay, Monday, April 1st. I slowly sit up by my bedside. The sheets that I kicked off are now on the floor. I should pick them up, but I don't have the strength to do so. My whole body feels sluggish. My parched throat begs for water. It feels like I'm waking up with a hangover. Despite my body's protests, I raise my left arm to check the time on my watch. The digital reading is 1, the 1st, Monday, 9:17 a.m. on its display. I lower my arm. Phew. And take another deep breath. What an awful nightmare, huh? Suddenly I start to feel a bit worried. But why? It was just a dream. I shouldn't get shaken over some dream. Still, deep down, I can't help but feel a little disturbed. A dream? But was it really just that? Saturday, April 6th. In 5 days, huh? Unconsciously, I start counting the number of days up until Saturday on my right hand. What the hell am I doing? I must still be half asleep. I coldly smirk, mocking myself. But just then, the door to my room is violently thrown open with enough force to break it. Standing in the doorway, I see... who is she again? All of a sudden, she says something. What's going on? She sounds like she's frantically chasing after something. Why? The girl repeats herself. Obviously, I have no clue what she's talking about. Okay, so now the main character's name comes out. It's Makoto. Come again? I think I sound really stupid, but it's too late to take my words back. The girl is starting to startled by my reply and takes in a deep breath. She says nothing, but instead stares directly into my eyes. This is kind of awkward. It's almost like this one time at the grocery store when a little girl I didn't know tightly clinged to my leg while saying, "Daddy." Yeah, this situation feels the same. Okay, I get to choose. Okay. Try giving her a comforting smile. I'm going to choose that one. I give her the same comforting smile that I gave the little girl. Just then... Huh? Is that it? It was just that? Judging by her tone of her voice, I think she's only addressing herself. Either way, I still don't know what the hell is going on. Then that was... Oh, now I get it. It's so obvious. She's probably still half asleep. When she woke up this morning, she was in a completely different bed with a completely different smell and a completely different lighting. She probably felt like she was still dreaming. It happens a lot when you sleep in a new environment. After all, I had the same delusion just now. Are you alright? I asked, still smiling.
大丈夫。
Yeah, I'm fine. Are you sure? You don't look too well to me.
そうかな。
You think so? Yeah, your face is really pale. Huh? She immediately draws her hand towards her cheek. But then she unexpectedly bursts into laughter.
でも、そういう誠だって、墓場の底から出てきたみたいな顔してるよ。
You say that, Makoto, but looking at your face, you'd think you just came crawling out from the bottom of a grave. Huh? I instantly raised a hand to my cheek, mimicking the girl's previous action. Wait, hold on. I almost missed it. Makoto? She definitely said that just now. Saying Makoto just like that. Hey, you know...
いいの。
No, it's okay. If you don't realize this, like, she's not referring to him as last name son. She's calling him Makoto with no honorifics or anything. Which is weird to talk to someone... It's weird to talk to someone like that in Japan if you just met yesterday. No, it's okay. The girl interrupts me and continues.
本当に何でもないから気にしないで。
Really, it's nothing, so don't worry about it. No, I'm not talking about...
ごめんね。なんか、いきなり押しかけちゃって。
I'm sorry for suddenly intruding on you like that.
ちょっと、なんていうか、勘違いっていうか。
It's just, how do I put it? I guess you could say I just made a misunderstanding.
まあ、とにかくこのことは忘れちゃってください。
Right, well, anyway, please forget that this ever happened. Well, for the reader, don't. Forget about it?
そういうことだから、それじゃ、また後で。
If you don't mind, well then, I'll see you later. Wait a sec. But before I could finish, she had already left and closed the door. Jeez. Still, doesn't she think she's being a little too familiar with me? Makoto. Don't go addressing people you barely know without a kun or something. Isn't that really rude? We just met yesterday. Meh, whatever. Maybe she's just that kind of girl. The really friendly type. Though she seems alright. I stretch, stand up, and begin thinking. What did she say her name was again? I definitely think that it started with a U, yes. Yue, Yuka, you, all those U's. Yoruki, Yuriko, Yuki, Yumi, Yue, Yuka. Yuka! Yeah, a lot of those names appear in the Infinity series. Yeah, that's right, it was Yuka. I remember now. She said so when she introduced herself last night. And her last name was Kawashima, wasn't it? Yuka Kawashima, huh? Well then, muttering those words, I head out to the living room. The ceiling is quite drafty. The room is rather spacious. Everything in it is new and well organized, like a showroom. On the south wall is a huge glass window. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to spam forward until I get to the intro, because that's really what I want to see here. So... I thought I was gonna, right, when we're done talking to Yuka, I thought I was gonna
そし
play.
たら他の二人のメンバーがどうしても現地集合がいいって言うんだよね。
I thought it was going to, like, go right to the intro after the conversation with Yuka, but apparently it
それ
doesn't.
は大丈夫。うん。
Oh. I don't know what I
おは
did.
よう。どうして？
Accidentally made a choice.
私
Guess that's to introduce me to all the characters.
いやあれ
Okuhiko. Oops, I made a choice. Okay. I don't know. I just tried to recap something.
あ、
Okay.
どうも、私は別に、まあ、
飯田を食い、そう、まあいいさ。
Oh yeah, I'm doing a recap. Okay.
意思各派、みんな、まあ、ね。そう、
このに、
Okay, we're gonna...
このに、
タバコ、一緒っちゅう、もう、まあ、じゃあ、ほほん。
this is
ま、その代わり、
so long. I thought it was this long. I thought the intro was gonna play eventually. We probably have to get introduced to the characters, so we're probably gonna have to get Karumi to show up.
いや、
みんな、さあ、何かご不満でも
Okay.
じゃあ、多分、
Oh,
はるか、じゃ、
okay. We have to get her. She has to cook the breakfast. Oh man, come on.
お、食事、さ、あれ、私、へえ、これで、まこと、
Come on. Come on, Karumi, show up. There you go. Thank you for showing
おい
up.
ちょ
There you are.
こっち、でも、だけど、住所、私、表札、うん。ピザ、じゃこ、
ちょっと待っ、
There's two more characters, Saki and
そうそう、
Izumi, that haven't showed up yet.
こちら、
But I think that's enough that they can play the intro.
あり、
Unless I accidentally skipped it.
ちょっ、おくい、
なあ、
はる、さっきまでって、
Whatever.
もう、4月、あれ、私、今でも、これよりもちろん、いや、
ねえ、そん、
て、さ、だから、いいな、どうぞ。なんなんだって言われても、だ、さ、
Oh man.
おし、今日、もう、優香せん、
Okay, we're already playing tennis. Okay, I don't know,
Haruka-chan,
I don't know what
yaranai no?
happens here. Okay. Okay. Stare into space for a moment. The problem is I just ran out of time to record, so I'm gonna have to spam through this too. Well, I don't know when eventually the intro plays. That's kind of... So we got the title card for the date. Deep breath. Man, what a terrible dream. Okay, Okay, well, the problem is I just ran out of time to record. So that's as much as I'm going to do. I'm not, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll spam for it until Yuka walks in. I gotta be somewhere. Yeah. But as you can see, it seems like it's the same base script, right? It's just they're translating things a little bit differently. So this new re-release is going to have a little bit different English text than the old fan translation did. Okay. So there you go. There's me playing a little bit of the remake. We can confirm, though, the remake has the original PC intro. So that's something. That means something. I don't know. It probably seems like I just finished the video, but then after finishing it, I didn't have to. I chose to record another segment the next day just to clarify some things that I got wrong so they wouldn't stick. It appears that the whole deal with playing an intro right after Makoto thinks, oh yeah, I'm at camp. That's actually where the line comes in. And that's I believe that's after his conversation with Yuka. Right after waking up, quote unquote. That's a Eternal Edition thing. That's something that the original game did not do. It's something that whoever created the Eternal Edition, I might put their YouTube handle in a comment or something when I publish this. When I find it, because I know what it is. Well, if I can find that little comment, that is. Put in there. And this remake, having nothing to do with the Eternal Edition, as that is a completely fan-made thing. It's just trying to remake the original game. Of course, wouldn't do that either. Well, isn't really a remake, it's a remaster. There's a difference. They didn't change it. They didn't change it that much. And the intro that does play in the Eternal Edition is, I don't believe, ever even exists anywhere than in the original PC version. That's probably the Sega Dreamcast intro. And the reason why I'm guessing that is because I've seen videos on YouTube. Well, I haven't personally played the PSP version, but I've seen videos of the PSP intro, and it's different than that still. So that just leaves that being the Dreamcast intro, unless it's some sort of PlayStation intro or something like that. But I'm just guessing it's the Dreamcast. So it doesn't even really belong here. But I presume the creator of the Eternal Edition liked that intro in particular, and that's why that one is in the Eternal Edition in particular. So nothing to do with this. This just goes right through because that's how the original PC version did. It only has the original PC intro because that's what the original PC version had. Nothing weird here. Everything is perfectly normal. Everything is how it should be. Something I did not actually show was the load and save menus. The load menu and save menus they aesthetically look very similar to those of the Xbox remake of Never7. And when they made the remaster of the Xbox remake of Never7, they just copied the UI of the Xbox remake, but they did not copy the UI of the original Never7 PC release or anything Never7. So they copied over the Never7 UI into Never7. And so the Never7 load and saves are reminiscent of the Never7 Xbox remake loads and saves. The load menu having this red hue, and the save menu having a blue hue. With the difference primarily being that this menu has the Never7 logo in the background, as opposed to like Blamu or something like that. And of course, unfortunately, because of the way this goes, they don't give you a clear list that you can look at until after you've finished an ending. So I cannot see exactly how the clear list is formatted, but I presume that there is a music list, and then there's the endings that you can get in this checkerboard format, and there's a CG gallery in the same way there is for the Never7 Xbox remake. It's formatted the same way. If I ever actually, we'll get to that later. If you don't remember or curious what the menu's looking like in the original game, so the CG gallery, I don't actually have these CGs for the original game because I haven't played through it. Perhaps I should. You selected a character. They kind of highlight it up in color. So I select Yuka, and it will show, the Yuka CGs. And then those various ones show up under Yuka. And it's formatted like this. You use right click to get out of it. Of course, they haven't even seen. Well, we see one of these, right? Yeah. When what's her face, Karumi shows up, and of course, there's a cutout in the checkerboard of CGs where that character is on the scene. And then the clear list you can access before you get any endings, and it has a list of endings, a list of scenes, and for each scene there is a percentage of the text in that scene that you have read, right? So the dream that cannot be awoken from, I've seen 100% of that text, but the beginning of everything, I've only seen 55% because that has a choice in it. And I chose one choice over the other, and choosing the other choice would be the other 45%. You may remember this full percentage thing. I mean, was used. I don't think it appears in Never7, the original, but it appears in Remember 11 again. And Remember 11 has tips that you can only read if you get 100% in every scene in the entire game. And there are lines in scenes that are affected by choices several scenes previous, and combinations of choices you've made several scenes previous and that scene. And it's a big pain in the butt 100%ing every scene. It's a nightmare, and you have to do it to get all of the content in the game. End of rant. I don't know about Never7 though. I think it doesn't. It's hard to get all the content in Never7 as well, but I don't think it has anything to do with the percentages, unlike Remember 11 where it does. And then these are the scenes in the Yuka route, and then these are the scenes of the Haruka route, and these are the scenes of the Saki route, and these are the scenes of the Karumi route, and this is the scenes of the Izumi Kure route, and these are the scenes of the Izumi route, and this means that the whole clear list spoils for you the routes, who's dateable, and what the route names are, and that Izumi has 2 routes, which means it's not really a spoiler for me to say it in this non-spoiler thing, because the game would have spoiled it for you, except not the remaster, but whatever. So that's the original clear list and album and stuff. I presume that the remake one, again, it takes the Never7 Xbox remake and just kind of uses that format. Is there anything else? Someone posted a flowchart for the remaster. You wouldn't want to look at it if you hadn't actually played it, because that's very spoilery. It's like the most spoilery thing possible, except maybe like a video of the ending. But since I've already played the game, it wasn't really a spoiler for me, so I looked at it. And there's something in there that suggested that the after credit scene to the golden ending, I won't say which one of those endings on the ending list is it, but I mean, it should be pretty obvious. If you get the golden ending, the after credit scene, that happens after it only happens if you go through it a second time. I presume that could happen if you just reloaded a save and went right through. So that raises the question, um, whether or not that's a change, because I don't remember if that was the case in the original game. So let me look. I actually think I have the flowchart somewhere. Let's see, is it a love engine port? No. Okay, hold on. Searching through my crazy file system here. Patch files. Nope. Okay, come on. Somewhere in here, I have the that stinking flowchart. It's in there somewhere. Let me just Google it. Never7 flowchart. Huh. I guess that's the same as the original. I guess you have to do it twice. That's interesting. Well, I guess it's not a change. Okay, so I don't really know of any changes to the flowchart then so far. Okay, so lastly, if I play through this entire remaster, I'll close the original here. No, I won't. Before I close the original, I'm going to show how the saves and loads work. So we don't have any files here, but this is what the original save and load menus look like. Okay, so now that we've gotten all that shown, by the way, a pin story is the Yukikure. If you're not aware. Yeah, this one. This is a Yukikure, which I don't know if that's in the remaster or not. I may eventually at some point play through the remaster and see if anything weird happens or anything's missing that I expect to be there, or something is there that I'm not expecting, and then comment on some really later video. It's not going to be soon though, because right now I'm trying to play through the remaster of the Xbox remake of Never7, because that's something that I have not finished reading yet, and I'm actually currently in an active Let's Play of, because I was feeding the Xbox original Xbox disc version of that through an OCR and Google Translate. Now that I have a commercial translation, I want to switch it over, and I have to catch up the remaster with where I was. So I'm reading that, and that's a priority over reading Never7. So, but maybe I'll get to reading this if I have some time to read it later. I don't know, if I'm like sitting in jury duty or something, I can bring it up on my laptop, which also has Steam on it. It's linked to my account and read it or something. I won't for another year because I just went to jury duty. That's not a good example, but anyway, something like that. And we'll see if if you know how the ending list looks and the CG gallery looks and whether or not the Yuka Cure route is included. Anything weird about the choices in the flowcharts, anything like weird hints in it, like, not weird, but like hints in it, like memories off had or something like that, something unexpected happens. But other than that, I think I actually am done now. Yeah. So that's that. Now you know I've looked at it. If you're wondering if I looked at this, I've looked at this. Bye.